Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. I have a special guest for you today, former Redskins quarterback Jason Campbell. He played for Ken Zampese for a season in Cincinnati. Zampese is expected to be named the Redskins quarterbacks coach. As of this taping, he has not yet been officially announced in that position. Campbell also has experience in the Turner system and understands what it's like to keep having to learn new offenses. And yes, Campbell wonders what would have happened to his career had he not had to change systems so often. And then I share a few of my thoughts, including why there's paranoia at Redskins Park. But first, my conversation with Jason Campbell. And now I'm joined by Jason Campbell, former Redskins quarterback. You guys know him. When I covered him, I always one of the true professionals that I've ever covered because he always, same demeanor, answered the questions, gave you the time, just always treated you well. So, Jason, I appreciate you joining me. And first of all, you were telling me that you have a podcast. What's your podcast and where can people find that?
Yeah, my podcast, I do one with Believe. It's BLEAV.com. And I do one for Auburn. And it's Jason Campbell and Taylor Beth Davis. And we do one once a week. And we're talking about Auburn football and talking about like things around the SEC. And sometimes we'll tap into the National Football League. And we're usually on there once a week. You can find it on my Instagram as well at jcampbell17. I usually post it on there every week and everything. So it's been fun. I've been enjoying it. It's a great opportunity to stay involved with football and stay on top of things.
So you're familiar with about half the Redskins roster because they're all SEC and Alabama guys.
Right. They're all SEC guys pretty much for the most part. But, I think getting Coach Rivera there, I think it's going to help change some things. He's a guy that's had a winning program in Carolina. He's been to the Super Bowl, and he's still in a modern-day era. And I think with him coming over and everything, I think he can bring a different mindset. For one thing, I know playing against him before is you're going to have a tough-nosed defense.
Yeah.
And, he has some guys already there in place that can make some plays for that defense with Switz and Kerrigan and, some guys they're probably going to draft. I don't know if they'll go out to Chase Young or not with the number 2 pick, but I'm pretty sure they probably will. But at the same time, though, surrounding Haskins with some stability is the key.
Yeah, and I'm going to get into that with you because you know that very well. But as far as like Rivera and Jack Del Rio too, how many times did you face their defense, and what were some of the things that did stand out to you?
Yeah, I faced Jack Del Rio when he was in Jacksonville and I was playing for the Raiders.
Okay.
Like I said, he's the type of defense he usually runs is, he may give up some plays here and there, but the closer you get to the red zone, closer you get to the end zone, his defense tightens. And the thing is, they just don't want you to get the touchdown. You may hit a big play in field, but the closer you get to scoring range, he comes at you a little bit, and he also plays that coverage, which I consider more like a quarter type coverage.
Okay.
Where he try not to get beat deep or anything behind him, try to keep everything in front of him. But it's a style of defense that if you're an edge rusher or you're a D lineman, you don't really have to worry about dropping back into coverage. I do know that much. He's the type of guy that he's going to put your hands in the dirt and he's going to come get you, as a quarterback and let his cover guys cover, but let his pass rusher rush.
And it's funny because obviously that's been a big thing here with Kerrigan, Montez Sweat. You would have seen Montez Sweat in the SEC. Montez had like 7 sacks, but he's also dropping quite a bit. I mean, it makes it hard for those guys to do what they really are good at.
Right. Yeah, that's hard. If you're a defensive lineman or you're a defensive end, like you make your money by getting sacks and getting to the quarterback, getting pressures, making him deliver the ball earlier. And that helps your DBs because they don't have to cover as long. But when you drop back in coverage, you actually do the quarterback a favor. You actually do the offensive coordinator a favor because now you allow more time for the guy to come off of first and second progression and find number 3 and number 4. And sometimes it hurts the DB because you scramble around. You can lose sight of a guy trying to cover him for more than 4 or 5 seconds. So you got guys like Sweats and guys like Kerrigan. Like I said, like you put their hand in the dirt, you go get the quarterback. And with Kerrigan getting up there a little bit in age, it wouldn't shock me if they did go after a young guy like Young to match him up with Sweat, for years to come and everything. He can learn a lot from Kerrigan while he's still there. So, he's coming into a defense that already has some talent. You saw that this year. I think they can improve a little bit on the back end, with some of the guys getting a little older there. But, I think with some young talent there, they have an opportunity to turn some things. And defense usually turns faster than offense when it's a new regime because there's a lot less to learn.
And one of those new parts on offense is a guy that you're familiar with is Ken Zampese. You spent a year with him in Cincinnati. The Redskins are going to hire him as their quarterback's coach. What is your take on Ken?
Oh, Ken, he's one thing I say about Ken now, he's very dialed in. And what I mean by that is he's on top of everything. Like when Haskins touched the field, he's going to be very prepared. He'll know all the blitzes. He'll know all the blitz pickups. He was very good at picking up blitz pickups, and he was the one that pretty much ran that part of our offense on third downs. He was in control of us protecting the quarterback, and he does an outstanding job of that. The year I was with Andy, he wasn't sacked as much as one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the league that year, and a lot of it was our preparation during the week. And a lot of credit goes to him because he would bring these blitzes and we'll go over how to protect ourselves against every last one of them. And there was some that we couldn't protect. The ball got to come out, and we were pretty much on top of that stuff. And I think that helped Andy out a lot. And of course, once Hugh Jackson left as coordinator, and Zampese kind of went to the offensive coordinator, things was a little bit different. But, it kind of takes some time to fall into that role. But as a quarterback coach, he was outstanding.
And, it's funny because, they also hired Scott Turner to be their OC. But for Dwayne, it almost feels like getting that quarterback's coach in Zampese might be the bigger hire.
Right. Getting that quarterback coach in Zampese is a bigger hire because, to me, Scott Turner, I had an opportunity to play with Norv before, and Scott was there as a receiver coach in Cleveland. And Norv, he runs that number system. He likes to stretch the field. It's all about getting deep and putting pressure on offense. On opposing defenses. And I'm pretty sure Scott has been under his tutelage for all these years. So, it kind of fits Haskins as a big arm quarterback because I love that offense. And if you're a big arm quarterback, this is a style offense you like to play in. So I think Scott's going to bring a lot of that. But anytime there's a young offensive coordinator with not a lot of experience, it helps to bring in a quarterback coach that's been around the game for as long as Coach Zampese has been around it, with his dad coaching in the league and then with him coaching. It's a great fit for him because now he can help Scott when it comes to those blitz pickups. He can help Scott, in the meeting rooms when it comes to designing some of the plays and how to beat certain coverages and everything. And Scott will do a good job himself, but it helps to have another voice in there with a lot more experience.
And also because one of the big things here with Dwayne early on when Jay Gruden drafted him early on, we'd hear there were things that he could have done more of, but there are also things that the coaches could have done more of. But it felt like, well, they were worried about winning this year and they really weren't worried about maybe doing as much with him early on. How hands-on is Ken and as a teacher just of the quarterbacks? What is his personality like when working with you guys?
Yeah, like I said, he's a guy who you're in the meeting room. He's gonna slide in a joke or two there, and everything. But he's very personable. He has a great family, his wife and kids. Pretty sure I think the other one's graduated high school now because that was 5 years ago when I was in Cincinnati. So, he's the type of guy gonna go out to eat sometimes, and he'll have a quarterback room together. And once you lighten the mood with him, he's gonna lighten the mood with you. But he's gonna come off at first very very detailed and very business-like in that aspect. But once he gets to know you, he starts to open up more. And I think with Haskins being as young as he is, I think it's going to start off more business-like, but then at the same time, it's going to grow into a more personable relationship. Like I said, when I first got there, it was all business in the beginning. But then by the time the mid-season got there, he got a feel for me. I got a feel for him. And most of my conversations was with him more than any other coach on the staff because we would talk during practice. If I wasn't getting reps or something, we'd sit there and we talking football. And then every now and then we'd talk about, things in life, like how's things at home, how's things here, how's things there. But, we became very personable, and I actually ended up developing a very good relationship with him. So, it's good to see him in the DC area and to get a guy like Haskins very early on in his career. And it's a kind of good thing that Haskins didn't start the year off last year playing early, because he could have got beat up a lot sooner with all the chaos that was going on. He could have got himself caught in a whirlwind that had nothing to do with him. But sometimes you're as good as your surroundings when it comes to so much stuff going on. And for him to have to wait a little bit and then get his feet wet a little bit towards the end of the year, I think it's good for him heading to next season, but not having to go through most of that chaos from the early part of the season.
Absolutely. And as you know, there was always chaos here. And I think some of that's going to change with Rivera. But with Ken Zampese, you talked about the protection, the details. Was he more detailed with some of that stuff than other guys you had been around?
Yeah, he was very, very, very detailed and stuff. Like on third downs, I knew exactly where all the blitzes were coming from. But like I said, when I was in Oakland, I had a really good career under Hugh. Hugh and Tom Cable did a good job with that stuff as well. And Paul Hackett was my quarterback coach out there, and Paul did a great job of doing the same stuff. And then when I was in Washington, like when I was with Al Saunders, things was really good because I was just coming into my own. And, and then Coach Gibbs, had retired. And when he retired, Coach Zorn came in, which, Coach Zorn came in kind of in a crazy situation. First he was hired as a quarterback coach, offense coordinator, and, you usually don't hear of anybody getting a job before the head coach does.
Right.
So the head coach brings his own people. So that was kind of tough because I remember at the time Jim Foster was supposed to be getting the job, or Greg Williams supposed to be moving up. And so I was talking to 2-3 different people, and like, okay, and it kept changing by the day. And then the next thing you know, he hired Jordan as quarterback coach, and then next thing you know, he was a head coach. And so when he became a head coach, then it was scrambling trying to make sure he filled his roster with coaches and everything. So it was tough on him. It was tough on me as a quarterback and everything. The first year we fought through as much as we could. We almost started the season off 7-1. We were 6-2 at one. And that was, just a testament to all the guys just fighting through all the stuff that was going on, but everything was happening so fast. And then the next year, we lost a whole bunch of our offensive linemen early in the year, and everything just kind of went downhill. But we fought our butts off that year. I remember we was in a lot of games, and but it was just tough.
That was also the bingo play caller year. That second year, that must have been crazy.
Yeah, that was crazy. Like I never heard of such. A guy that was retired and playing bingo, and Coach Sherman Williams, and it wasn't his fault. Like he called me in the office, got there, he was like, "Man, I feel so sorry for you. Like this doesn't happen in the National Football League." He was like, "You're a good quarterback, and you're not having the opportunity to showcase your real skills and work this team the way that it should be." And it was frustrating, but I tried not to make any excuses. I just tried to push through it and be as professional as I possibly could. And then I ended up getting traded to Oakland. It was kind of like a breath of fresh air a little bit. Things went really well out there for me. And I was having a great career there, and ended up breaking my collarbone. And then all world breaks loose again. So it's just a fortunate thing. I've learned that anytime you get an opportunity to play that position in the National Football League, don't ever take it for granted, because whether you're doing good or whatever, you're always one injury away from things turning up. And if I can tell Haskins anything is, man, enjoy the process. The good, the bad, just enjoy the process, because when it's all over and done, you're going to look back on those days and you're going to ask yourself, did I enjoy the process? Did I have enough fun? Or did I take it too serious to a point that I couldn't enjoy it because I was so worried about everything else that was happening around me, instead of just focusing on what an opportunity it is to play in the National Football League and just do the best you can.
Do you ever look back, though, because you had such a weird start to your career, because, you had, I think it was your first year, you were behind Brunell and Ramsey, but then there's a new coordinator in your second year, and then there's a new coordinator, I think, in your fourth year, and then you have Zorn. Do you ever wonder, like, what if you had gotten into a stable situation where your career might have gone?
Oh yeah, all the time, because even when all that chaos going on in Washington, my numbers went up every year.
Yeah.
And that was with everything that was going on and having to learn new offense pretty much every year. My numbers still kept, improve. And even with all the injuries, Porter's missing like 8 games 1 year,
Right.
Santana missed some games, and we just kept rolling, and everything was going up and up. And then when I go to Oakland, I'm in the same system for 2 years, and things go up there. Games they haven't won before, we was winning. Hadn't lost a division game through all my starts when I was there. Those year and a half before I got hurt. So the same thing there. Numbers were going up, everything's going up. We was winning, and pretty much grabbing hold of the AFC at that time. We beat the Chargers 3 times in a row, and everything. And then next thing you know, I get hurt, and then Al Davis had passed the week before, and
Right.
Hugh Jackson makes that trade for Carson Palmer, and it just kind of messed up my whole career, because I always sit at home and think about the what if. And, I know you're not supposed to live that way, but
I don't know how you don't.
It's hard not to think that way when if things were going bad and unraveling, okay, I get it. But for me, things were going really well. Like that year, I was in top 10 of all numbers when I got hurt.
I know, and that's why I asked that. How hard is it? Because, again, Dwayne is going to have to learn a new offense in his second year. So he's learned one last year, learned another one this year. How hard is it for a young quarterback to have to learn a new offense that fast? A second offense?
Well, for me, I was used to it from college.
Right. Well, that's true.
because,
You have every year.
I had one every year in Auburn when I was in college. And, like I said, Petrino was a really good one. Next thing you know, he got a head coaching job. So every time things started to go up, I either got leave for a head coaching job or things changed. But at the same time, I always tried to piece together anything I learned from the year before or a year before that when I'm learning new plays and try to figure out what's the similarities. And sometimes the verbiage can be really different, but how can I make it simple on myself? And I would sit down and just kind of game plan and study that stuff that way, where I have comparisons. And then once I got to a play where I can get a hold of the playbook, you're trying to get yourself to that first phase before you get the mini camp. And now the mini camp, you're trying to get to that second phase. Then you pretty much play the season in that second phase. And then once the season is over with, you can go back, study the film, break down all the plays that you did wrong, what you did right, how can you improve. And that's how you grow from within the system, because you can go back and watch something that you did wrong so you can correct it for the next season. But when you're changing offenses, you can't do that. Like, you can go back and watch yourself, but then you run a totally different offense or a different style system with a different coach with a different mentality. And it's like, okay, so I almost got to erase everything I did the year before, but at the same time, try to gravitate some of the things to apply to the next year. And for him, it's better for him now because he only had a small taste of that this year, so he'll be into a full starting year under one system moving forward.
You know this all because, like you said, you've played in the Norv's system and it's that Coryell system. How is it to pick it up? Because I know, like, he was in the West Coast, and I believe you played in some of those too, right?
Right. Yeah, I played in some West Coast systems. I played in the number system, like I said, the Don Coryell system. Like I said, like, it's a good system for him. Like, the reason the running back at McCaffrey had so many catches out of the backfield, if you think about everywhere Norv Turner has been, running backs have been a huge part of his offense, catching the ball out of the backfield. And it didn't matter if he was in San Diego, it didn't matter if he was, he was in Washington, and when he was Minnesota, like Cleveland, like all the running backs that played for him caught so many balls out of the backfield. And he's all about creating matchups. And if you're a running back and you like to catch the ball out of the backfield as well as you like to run it, then your hair should jump up off your skin, because that's what's about to happen. You're about to get very involved in the passing game. And that helps bring those linebackers up and everything. That's how you hit those deep end cuts that Norv loves to throw. Those deep end cuts, and he likes to throw the ball vertical and everything, hit those deep 7 routes, those corner routes, because you can get a guy behind, because the linebackers have to come up and respect the back coming out of the backfield.
In terms of the verbiage, they always talk about, like, when I talk to people, they say maybe the hardest system to pick up for quarterbacks, especially a young one, is that West Coast system. Is this
the West Coast? Yeah, I can agree with that, because the West Coast is like, you almost got 2 full sentences before you even break the huddle. And it's like, and I remember one time during my career, Zorn, the first couple of games of the year in 2000 and might have been 2008 or 2009. I remember him saying, "Hey, I'm only going to give you half the play, and you got to know to memorize the rest of it. So in the game, when you see a certain personnel come in, you automatically got to know like what's the rest of that play." And all the other coaches was like, "What? Like the game is already hard enough. You gonna put that on him?" Like to do that too with a new
Yeah.
system? It's not like he been in the systems on for all these years, like Hasselbeck. He like,
Right.
it's his first year in the system, and he tried it the first game. And I was just like, bro, like, nah, we can't do this. And we was playing the Giants. I like, dude, like, help me out a little bit. Like, and the coaches even told him, Sherman Smith told him, and Chris Mike, they both told
Oh,
like, Zorn, you can't do that. And they like, we coach it. We have a hard time just even doing it. It's our first full year. So he ended up stopped doing that. And the next thing you know, he kind of went on a run there. Where
yeah.
I didn't throw any picks for like 8 games and
Right.
started winning and everything. And so, like I said, for Haskins, like he should be happy that he's getting a coach like Rivera with experience. Like nothing against Coach Zorn. Coach Zorn was a fun person. He was a good person, but he came in a tough situation and he didn't have a lot of control at the same time either because he was trying to prove himself and then and everything. So, but with Rivera, there's no proving. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like he's already proven. So he's coming in there with respect, where teammates gonna look at him, and ultimately when he comes into the room, they instantly gonna buy in because of what he's already done, and then he's a couple of years removed from from coaching in the Super Bowl, and so, and then he was a great NFL player himself on the '85 Bears team. So
Yeah.
he
He's
already
won a lot of times.
right, so he already got the experience, he already got the attention of the players. So it's a good situation. And like I said, every quarterback's best friend is a great defense, and he's gonna have that. And next thing is, if I'm a tight end and I'm in that offense, I'm jumping. I'm still getting super excited
Right.
because that offense throws the ball to the tight end just as much as they throw the ball to the running back. And if you look up, sometimes the running back probably had the second most catches on the team.
Right.
And so there are some years a tight end may have the most catches or the second most catches on the team. And I played with Jordan Cameron in that system, and Jordan lit it up that year.
That's right.
He ended up going to the Pro Bowl. It's like so because the ball come to him so many times.
Is it easier in terms of the verbiage? You talk about how long the West Coast, how much easier is this offense to learn then?
Oh, it's a lot easier to learn for us the verbiage because it's more of a number system.
Okay.
Like you still have some long sentences in there a little bit, but not as much. You may say like, hey, 787 wide drag, something like that. And, the 7s tell the outside receivers what to do, the 8 tell the inside receiver the
Right.
slot or the tight end what to do, and then you pretty much tell the back what to do. Like H rub or something, or, H swing, something like that. So you pretty much tell them the back what to do on every play. So it's not as long as the West Coast system, but you can get in and out of the huddle a little bit faster in this system.
And then I'll use 2 more minutes here. And Jason, I appreciate your time. Is it tougher? You know what this atmosphere is like in Washington and being the quarterback of
Mm-hmm.
the Redskins and what Dwayne probably dealt with. Is it tougher for some reason to play quarterback in this city?
I would say it's a great city. Put it away, it's a great city to play football in.
Right.
I say that because the Redskin fan base and everything, they're just thirsty for wins. And when I was there in '05, we went to the playoffs, and in '07 we went to the playoffs. And that was the first year I was actually leading our team to the playoffs.
Right.
'07, and I got hurt. I think it was 8-6 at the time. But but you can feel the energy and the excitement. Like it's totally different than the way it is now.
Yeah.
Now, I've been up there a couple of times and, people, you say Redskin, they're like, oh, whatever,
Yeah.
because they don't really want to hear it because, the product that they've been seeing of late and everything. But, when I was up there, like I said, we still had some runs in us and everything. And, it still was respected around the league for the most part. But I think first and foremost, if Coach Rivera can get the fan base to start back buying in and start back trusting, in the process, and they can start back getting off to a fast start and getting that fan base back. Because it's hard when you look up in the stands and you see an opponent team have more fans than you do in your own stadium. Like, that's a hard pill for any player to look at and swallow. And that happened one time when I was playing in Washington. That was a Monday night game against the Steelers.
Oh, God. I remember that one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just like, dude, we 6-2. And
Yeah.
I was just like, and you know what I'm saying, we winning. And I was just like,
Yeah.
they got way more fans in the stands than we do.
That was
Like,
crazy. No, I remember that.
yeah, I'm on offense, and I feel like I'm in an opponent's stadium. I'm having to do a silent count at home, and I couldn't even use my voice recognition to help draw them off the sides or to help them show their defense before the snap so I can switch something, because it felt like a road game for me. So and everything. And then 2 years ago, I came back up for a Redskins Cowboys game, and it was kind of raining that game, but it was way more Cowboy fans than Redskin fans there. And I was just like, wow, that's shocking. Like, I like, man, so people just either selling their tickets away or they just not buying because they're not excited about what they've been seeing, with all the stuff going on within the organization. So hopefully, Dan has, he got the right guy, and, I've heard he's changing a whole bunch of things. He pretty much starting from scratch.
Yes, he is. It's a different organization.
Yeah, so he's pretty much starting from scratch. So, sometimes when you decide to make a change, you have to get rid of everything. And it seems like that's what he's doing. And he's trying to start over and see if he can get the fan base back, because I think he feels the pressure that he's lost a lot of the fan base of the Redskins. And the Redskins was one of the biggest fan bases I can remember, because no matter where I went in the off season, I can be in another country or something, there is a Redskin fan, hey, Redskin, and everything. But, playing with the Raiders was a huge fan base. Yeah. And everything. So I was fortunate to play for some huge fan bases. But like you say, though, like when we was winning in Oakland, man, they got fun. And at times when we were winning in Washington, it was fun. But at times when you were losing in Washington, it wasn't so fun, because you're one of the most publicized teams in the NFL, because you're one of the top 3 biggest markets in the NFL. So
it's a good and bad to it.
All right, it's good and bad.
And last thing, Jason, I am curious if you had a chance to watch Dwayne at all this year, and what you think of him as a quarterback.
I had a chance to watch him a little bit. Honestly, I didn't watch a whole lot this year. I was doing some radio stuff with Auburn and stuff, and then so sometimes I was just busy at the time and coaching high school football a little bit too. But from the times that I saw of him, though, like, he does have a strong arm. He does have a strong arm. I think the one thing I saw was when I think he ran in the locker room thinking the game was over with.
The selfie,
Yeah, to take a selfie. So, like I said, I think that just shows you that, he was young and everything. And, I'm pretty sure he's learned from that now. And he's looking forward to, to the upcoming season, have a full off season, knowing you're a starter. That's a difference between coming in the middle of the season, but then going through the whole off season, preparing with the starters, getting all those reps, getting all those, the language and everything. It's a major difference between just coming off the bench in the middle of the season.
Yep.
So it was good for him to get his feet wet, like I said before, but at the same time, to have a whole off season and knowing, like, this is your team, it's a totally different ball game.
Hey, you said you're coaching football down there?
Yeah, I helped coach high school this year, and we had a really good season. We finished 11-2, but we got past this one game. We went to state. We lost it with a minute to go in the game. We was up 24-21 with a minute left. And then we ended up losing 28-24. But kids play hard. My nephew was a senior. He's a 6'5" receiver. So
is he going anywhere?
Yeah, he got some scholarship offers. So he's taking his visits in January. So we'll see who he signed with in February.
Well, at least you won the Iron Bowl this year.
Yeah, we won the Iron Bowl, but then we didn't do so well in the Outback Bowl. Yeah, so so we knocked out Alabama from the playoff system and everything, which I'm pretty sure everybody wish Alabama probably was playing LSU still, because it would have been a better game. But at the same time, though, Auburn got some good guys on their team that's coming out this year.
Yeah.
So that defensive lineman, Derrick Brown, he's a top 5 draft pick. That guy's big, he can move, he can play. So I'm pretty sure, he'll be having some visits to Washington, as well. So even if Washington took him or if they took Chase Young, you can't lose.
They'll be in a good spot.
Yeah, be in a good spot.
Jason, listen, I appreciate your time. Love catching up with you, and I loved your insight. And I know people are listening to this are going to learn a lot about what the Redskins fans can expect from this new setup here. So thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, appreciate it. No problem. Y'all have a good one.
After this break, I'll be back with a few of my thoughts on Dwayne Haskins, Kevin O'Connell, and that paranoia at Redskins Park. And I talked about this in the last podcast, but it keeps coming up, so let's kind of go over it again. Dwayne Haskins is not guaranteed anything, and that's just fine with me. Ron Rivera had multiple chances to say Haskins is his guy moving forward, but all he offered was the right thing. Praise for his talent, but a desire to see what transpires in the offseason. He, like everyone else in the organization, wants to see the next steps that Haskins takes. That's okay. While Haskins improved, he didn't really do enough for anyone to say, oh, absolutely, we have our guy for the next 10 years. That's fine. They don't have to be at that point right now. They've always called this a process, so let's see how it shakes out. Really, this is up to Haskins. Everybody I talked to over there says the same thing. He has a talent. But as one player told me one time, what does that mean? He has a good arm? Well, QBs wouldn't be in the NFL if they couldn't make the throws, so it does take more. And Rivera spelled out some of what he wants to see from Haskins, starting with leadership. Others simply want to see what sort of work he puts in. We'll truly find out in the spring and summer the work that he's done over the winter. I think he's going to be working, to what degree, who knows, but the kid's not lazy, so let's dispel that. It's just more about, it's always been about working at an NFL level. And he's done enough to get to this NFL part. Now he's got to work at a certain level to not just stay here, he's going to be here for a little bit, but to succeed the way that he has said he wants to. So I have no idea where this is going because I don't even think the Redskins know. I can see a few different scenarios, including having a veteran open the season as a starter as they continue to get Haskins ready. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility by any means. The good news for Haskins is that this head coach will be more concerned with his growth than I think the past one was. That matters. But I also don't think that Rivera will start Haskins no matter what. Nor do I think owner Dan Snyder told him, you can make any move you want, including getting rid of trusted people who have been with me for nearly 2 decades, but you have to start Haskins day one. I don't think that's how it's working right now. People in the building know how desperate Snyder is and the power that he's given to Rivera. That power will manifest itself in every decision. But I'm okay with what he said about Haskins. Listen, there's been too much entitlement here over the years. If Haskins ends up starting, it's because he earned it and because they see the potential long term. If that's the case, there will be a tremendous benefit, and that's exactly what you should want. Do not write the kid off by any means. I think he had a good finish. He needs to build on it. Let's see where it goes. Number 2, I do think that Haskins will miss Kevin O'Connell simply because of how much work he put in with him over the last month and a half of the season. There was definitely a difference after Jay Gruden was fired. I will always maintain that Haskins did himself no favors early on, but he also didn't get enough help early on. It wasn't about the reps and all that, getting a few reps in practice. That wasn't going to make the difference. It was everything away from there. And he was put in a tough spot, and the coaching staff, I think, made it tougher, and I believe it affected him. I think it would have affected a lot of people. Maybe not some, but it definitely seemed to affect him. He still could have done more to help himself, but I think that's why you started to see growth in him later in the season. Now he just needs it to continue. O'Connell was key to that growth. That's not to say all is now lost, and it's not to say it was all about O'Connell either. Haskins was putting in the work. If I'm going to sit there and say that it's not about the coach, it's about the kid, well, the kid was doing it, and he started to see the benefits. I think O'Connell was more nurturing in that regard, and I think that's what Haskins needs. Not to baby him, but to help him go along the way. I don't know what Scott Turner will be like as an offensive coordinator. I do know he has excellent pedigree. I also know that Ken Zampese is absolutely a good quarterbacks coach, and that if indeed when that thing is finalized, that's going to help Haskins, as you heard Campbell talk about. I think he's the biggest key in this equation. I think O'Connell has a bright future. I didn't view him in the same light as Sean McVay or even Kyle Shanahan. but those two were extraordinary, and you knew it all along, despite whatever the fan perception was at the time, and not just fan perception, some media perception. You heard it from players. I did hear good things about O'Connell from players. I remember Louis Riddick telling me on the podcast, I think it was in June, that if he got back in the league, he was told that O'Connell should be on his list of coaches to watch. Well, we'll see. I do think O'Connell would have stayed if he'd had more say in who he could hire for his staff. But is this a death blow? No. There are enough good coaches in this league, and I think the Redskins could end up with a good situation if with Zampese as that quarterback's coach, because again, he's the one who's going to be working with Haskins more closely. That's why I keep going back to him. That's a big deal to me. Next one. I don't recall a ton from Scott Turner when he was around the Redskins while his dad was coaching. I did see the interview he did with Larry Michael on Redskins.com recently, and already I can tell you this. He seems like a better communicator than his dad. One of the hardest parts of the job when Norv Turner was a coach was transcribing his press conferences, especially on Monday. They'd be like a half hour. He'd start and stop sentences 3 to 4 times. They were painful to transcribe. I remember talking about this with a player one time, and he told me, if you guys think that, what do you think we think? And I always felt like that was a part of the problem here, one of the parts. But I also know that Norv was a tremendous and is a tremendous offensive mind. I remember also how much he invested in his kids. When his son was a freshman football player at Oakton High School, he had his first practice at 7 a.m. the day after the Redskins broke camp. Back then, they were in Frostburg. Camp was a lot tougher and longer. Coaches had long, long days. Turner got home real late the night they broke camp, yet he was there at 7 a.m. with his son for his first practice. He also made it a habit to attend his games every Friday night. Turner would start his day earlier on those days just to make sure he could leave earlier. He got the same number of hours of work in, but he was able to leave at a different time because he was getting in earlier, but he did that so he could make Scott Turner's games. And I also recall when Scott Turner was a freshman at Oakton, hearing from his high school coach, whom I've known for a long time, that he would occasionally suggest plays during the varsity games. And they'd listen to him because he was smart and those plays worked. He was always better as a coach, I think, than he was as a player. In fact, he was benched late in his senior year. And one of the things I remember the coach telling me is that how Norv Turner, while he may have disagreed with some of that stuff, didn't really fight him on it. There were a couple things that he stated to him, but it wasn't like he was being a jerk dad or some whatever. So anyways, just thought I'd share that. Now, finally, it remains a weird time at Redskins Park as they transition into a very different organization. There's a lot of paranoia in the building with people worried about their own futures. That's the way it goes. But also, whenever any information gets out, there's concern that the higher-ups will think it came from that person who is ever named. Dan Snyder is intent on plugging all the leaks and definitely starts trying to find out where things are coming from once information gets out, unless, of course, he's the one putting it out. And I don't know. I'm not saying he is or isn't, but he knows what he's putting out, if anything. Problem is, half the stuff that's come out has been incorrect, or at least kind of only half correct, even when it appears to be coming from someone with an ultra-close connection. But there is concern that when information is reported, that it will lead back to the name involved in the story. In most and perhaps all cases, that's probably not where the info is coming from, but it still leads to paranoia. Leaks come from all over, and you can't prevent all of them. It's just the way it is in this league. It's not just the Redskins who have this. Pretty much every team has them. Sometimes those leaks are designed and come out for a reason. It could be the people in charge who don't like all the other leaks are okay with some of this information coming out. Regardless, the Redskins are wise to take the one-voice approach. It will cut down on how much gets out and what the players then have to deal with. And I think that is a good thing. Well, that's it for this week. I appreciate Jason Campbell joining me. I hope you enjoyed that interview. It was good catching up with him, and I thought he shared some terrific insight. And as always, I appreciate you listening. Talk to you soon.